Howdy, everybody. There we go. Howdy, everybody. Life Lesson Friday for January 20th of 2023. You can do more than you think. And I've actually said this to a couple of people this week. I read it in a book, an example of it, in a book called Anatomy of an Illness, and by Norman Cousins, I'll be posting about that probably tomorrow as I finish the book. But you can do more than you think. Your body specifically can accomplish more than you think it can. The problem is your brain gets in the way. Your mind more than your brain, because your brain will just operate and do. But your mind gets in the way. Your fear gets in the way because you're fearful of what could happen if you aren't able to complete the task on a physical level. Whether it's going through rehab and from a physical therapy standpoint and not being able to do the task. I've experienced it myself. I've talked to other people who experienced it. As an athlete, it's pushing yourself beyond where I think this is all I can accomplish when your body has got research has proven your body has got up to 30% more that it can go beyond what your brain thinks it can go, what your mind thinks it can go. But your mind is there to say, hold on, because I know you're going to do some other things, and so I've got to hold you back, right? And I heard an example of this just in a podcast this week. That if you think about a championship game, right, and these athletes are giving everything they can give, they're pushing with all their might to try and win the game, and they're exhausted on the sideline, right? At the end of the game, they're exhausted, they're tired, they're worn out. But then if they're on the championship team and they win, all of a sudden they've got all the energy in the world to go celebrate, right? And all of a sudden they're smiling, they're walking around, they're like high-fiving everybody, they're jumping up and down because they won, because the excitement, because your body reacts to what your mind thinks. And at the end of a game, we've been conditioned to think I'm supposed to be exhausted, whether I am or not. During a workout, I'm supposed to be exhausted. This is supposed to be hard because the coach gave me this workout to do, this time to hit, this number of activities to do. So by the time I get to the end, I'm supposed to be exhausted because he's going to give me or she's going to give me enough, and that's what they want. And sometimes that's not the case. I had some athletes this week that I said, I'm different. I coach differently. I coach to what your body can handle, not to push you over the edge. And so I want to teach you to handle a certain amount, and I want to teach you to be able to move through it. And sometimes that means you're going to have a very, like, it's a workout. It's still going to push you. But it's going to be very much something that you can control and get done with and go, oh, hey, I could do more. Like, that's what I want. I want you to get done and go, hey, I could do more. Because if all you ever do is work towards the end of the fourth quarter, what happens if you go to overtime? Right? And a lot of times in our lives, that's what happens. We get to that point in our life where we're like, oh, I'm just exhausted. I'm tired. I can't do anymore. And then somebody calls and says, hey, we got to do this. Right? In a work scenario. But if you're exhausted, you can't do anything more. You're like, oh, I'm done. I don't want to deal with work. I'm stressed out. I'm da 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 da. I just want to go to bed. Then your friend calls and says, hey, you want to go to the club? You're like, hey, let's go. Right? Because you get that extra boost of adrenaline. Your body is capable of doing that. It's your mind that gets in the way. And so when you start thinking too much, you start limiting yourself because we automatically start thinking about the fears. We automatically start thinking about what people have told us we can and can't do, whether in person or just society that says, oh, you can't do that, right? Um, I mean, I did start my business 20 plus years ago, 25 years ago, because I had people that told me, oh, you can't do that. And so I didn't. I waited 20 years before I finally started and launched it. And look, I've got a business. And so and I'm doing it the way that I thought I should have done it back then, and I'm doing it now. And so, yeah, did I waste 20 years of where I could be? Um, I mean, I learned a lot of things through those jobs, so I'm not saying it's a waste at all. But when we don't just act upon what we know we can do, and we let our body or our mind control our body from that standpoint, we will always fall behind our potential. Which means if you reach your potential, how much farther could you have gone? Right? And so that's when they say the sky's the limit, because really the sky is the limit. You can get as far as you want to, as far as you believe you can. And so where's that belief? Where is it coming from? And so you can do more than you think because other people are doing it, right? Other people are doing it. And so if other people are doing it, it's proof that it's not that it's physically unable to be done. It's not that it's financially unable to be done. It's not that it's, in a career standpoint that nobody could, like people are doing things out there that you would not believe because you think, oh, nobody could do that, but people are doing it. And so then you have to think, okay, why am I limiting myself? Because if that's an area that I want to focus on or an area that I want to be good at or an area that I want to pursue, and I'm not because I think it can't be done, but other people are doing it, then I am the problem that's limiting myself because I'm getting in the way. And so one of the things I tell people is shut your brain off. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah. And you have to shut your brain off to what you're doing and let your body do it. Right? Like if you're driving down the road, don't shut your brain off. You got to pay attention to what you're doing and driving, right? But a lot of us do. We get used to driving. We understand what we're doing. We turn the radio on. Maybe we're on the phone and we're distracted. And sometimes to a point where we're too far distracted. Okay? But a lot of us, we're not necessarily paying attention like we were when we were an initial first driver. And we were really nervous and we're holding and we're shaking all over the place. But unfortunately, one of the things that we do especially when we're an athlete, is when we feel that coming, we start to crunch, we start to tense up, and if we just relax and shut your brain off about what's going to happen if I fail, what's going to happen if I don't do it, what's going to happen if my body gives out, because your body's not going to give out, your brain is shutting it off first. Your mind is shutting it off first. So you've got to be able to overcome your mind and the limiting factors in your mind, and then you're going to be able to do far more than you ever thought was possible. So figure out what it is that what you are holding yourself back from being able to accomplish. And in that moment that you need to do it, in that moment that you need to accomplish it, turn your brain off. Like pay attention to what you're supposed to do. Do the mechanics of what you're supposed to do. Like stay in the moment. Like so your brain is not like I'm not saying go in a coma, go to sleep, but turn your brain off to the noise that is telling you this can't be done, this is difficult. Oh my gosh, you need to change this. You need to lessen the load, whatever those things are. Turn your brain off and just do the activity. You'll get more done than you think is possible.